Dr. Newby-Alexander, let's get back to our topic at hand. And I wanted to ask you about, in your studies and through the center study, do we know anything about the religions, the religious practices of these people from places like Ndongo and other Central West African nations who are being brought against their will to this continent and throughout the Americas? Do we know anything about their religious background?
Yes, we do. In fact, a number of historians and anthropologists have delved into that. We know, for example, that when we talk about the Kingdom of Ndongo, which became Angola, and we talk about the Kingdom of the Congo, which sometimes was their competitor, and they fought a number of wars with each other over territories and power and so forth. These were areas that were impacted by the Portuguese, but it wasn't originally the Portuguese coming and invading. Instead, they were trading partners, and you would see the different leaderships in both of those kingdoms understand the power dynamics that not only they wielded and that they themselves, the rulers of these nations wielded, but they understood that to extend their power and expand even their power within their country, they had to come at it through different avenues. And one of the most important avenues in human history is the use of religion as a way of wielding power and wealth, and sort of contextualizing all of the practices, the cultural practices that you have, and wrapping them around religion, and then wrapping that around the leadership that's then responsible for overseeing that religion and delivering that religion in some way, or the interpretation of that religion to the people of that nation state. And that is true of any nation that you look at, whether it's on the continent of Africa, Europe, the Americas, Asia, it doesn't matter. That's a dynamic that you see throughout. And as these nation states emerged, you would see them utilize religion as a way of establishing their authority. The problem with a lot of these nations as they diversified, as they became empires, is they were bringing in people who did not share the same religious ideas. There were similarities in their religion, but they didn't share the same religion. And so how do you bring those people in? How do you absorb them? How do you co-opt them? And so a lot of the Congo and Ndongo were having problems with that. And an outside religion called Christianity helped them to provide that solution. And what they did was they created a religious hybrid system. So they saw that a lot of the, especially with Catholicism, a lot of the practices, you have the rosary, the praying to certain saints and and the sacraments, very similar to their religious ideas that we in the West called animistic ideas. But, it's this idea of a deity, a deity that represents certain elements in nature, whether it's, the sun, the stars, the moon, the wind, the rain, the weather, all of that. These different deities representing it. And in so many ways, the different saints represented these ideas. So there was a similarity. And this was a way to also not have one ethnic group seemingly dominate another. So if you take those ideas, those general ideas that they all share, and then you sort of wrap them into this outside religious idea, that this would be a way to kind of pull people together. Now, I'm describing something that happened in West Central Africa, but this also happened in Europe. This happened in Rome. So when we talk about Christianity, there was nothing pure about Christianity. It wasn't writ in stone and then emerged in that way. Instead, it was a hybrid or syncretic adaptation of these religious ideas and merged with the indigenous religious beliefs of the people in Rome, because there was no sense of this notion that God, and this is coming from the Jews, that God had to cause the sun to rise and set. This was an idea that came from the Roman religion and also from the Greek religion. So there's been a syncretic religious practice. When outside ideas come in, that we have seen throughout the world. And so this is what the people in the Congo and in Ndongo did. And many of them then understood not only what the religious ideas, but its tie-in to wealth, to power, to freedom, to privilege, to position in society, and to, most importantly, the law. So they already understood that, and delegations of people, especially from the Congo, were sent to Portugal, and some of them actually became part of the priesthood in the Catholic Church in Portugal. And this was all prior to the 17th century. And so by the time these individuals were raided from their cities in Ndongo, and they were sold into the transatlantic slave trade and then stolen. So, the thieves had another thief steal from them. And so they were stolen off of the San Juan Bautista that left the port of Luanda in what we call Angola today. And the White Lion and the Treasurer, which were two ships, they were pirate ships. One was owned by the the Virginia Company of London, and the other by a Norfolk County wealthy aristocrat, and they were piloted by captains who were really privateers or pirates. And then those individuals, about 32 of them, were taken to the colony of Virginia, and they became part of the original Africans who would form what would be the United States later on in the 18th century. Those individuals formed the core, and then you would see other people coming in gradually in the 17th century, and they would all come with this knowledge and understanding because they were coming from generally the same place. And they would come with this knowledge and understanding of Christianity, and especially from the Catholic perspective. But it was a syncretic Christianity. They would keep their ethnic group's first name. So names that have been stereotyped, like Sambo and Suki and so forth, those were names that were very common names in West Central Africa. And then they would adopt a last name that was often Portuguese because they were identifying in some way with this power dynamic. But when they came into the Virginia colony, the colonists did not want to recognize that they had a last name, because having a surname provided you with a certain degree of power and position in society. And so they would simply ignore it. And over time, many people thought, the Africans didn't have last names. No, they had them. They were just unrecognized last names. They did not include them in the official records, but African peoples passed down their last names to their children and their children's children's children. Unfortunately, a lot of people coming in not knowing this history have said, they just simply took the name of the slaveholder, and often that was not necessarily the case. Now, some people did select a name as a way of beginning their family history and tradition, because that's where they were first brought in. And that was a sacred place where their family would begin.